Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is leg. And some people might have clicked on this video because they were wondering leg can be a verb. And the answer is yes. It's more common to hear leg used in British English versus American English, but that's what we're focusing on this week. Verbs that are more commonly used in British English. So let's take a look at how we might use leg as a verb. The first way you could use leg as a verb is to mean to walk somewhere or to travel by foot. A second way to use leg is to mean to run away from someone or something. You should know that leg is a regular verb. Because we have a verb that ends with a consonant, vowel, consonant, when I go to make my progressive tense, I'm going to double the last consonant. So I'm adding a G and then adding ing to form legging. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by doubling that last consonant, leg, so adding an extra G there, and then adding ed. Our base verb, leg, g, ends in a voice sound. So our past tense ending is going to make a D sound. Legged, legged. Okay. Now, I am going to point out that phrasal verbs are really common with this particular verb, leg. So you might hear the phrase leg it after. And so this means to chase someone or something or to run after someone or something. An example of this could be the girls legged it after the boys during recess. So they chased the boys. That's all that is meant by that particular sentence. A second phrasal verb you might hear is to leg it around, right? And so again, this goes back to those original definitions we looked at about walking or running around. So imagine you're talking on the phone to someone and they ask, where are you legging it around? Where are you walking around? Right? And you could tell them wherever you are. The other thing to notice here is that it's really common to see the preposition it after this verb. And you're going to see that in some more example sentences in just a moment. So to leg it is really, again, that idea of walking or traveling by foot. So today, let's focus on using our verb of the day and using it in a way to give advice. There are three main ways that we can give advice, and that's generally through modals or semi-modals. The first way you might hear someone give advice is with should. Um, a second way is through the phrase ought to in our base verb. And then our third way to give advice is with had better. So we'll take a look at each one of those. And what I hope you'll notice from the graphic on my screen is that the way in which we give advice can be strengthened. Okay, so let's start with sort of the most common way to give advice, and that's with the modal should. Our structure for an affirmative or positive piece of advice. We're telling someone that it's a good idea to do this action. We can make a sentence that way through our subject using the modal should and then the base verb. You can see that in this sentence. You should leg it to the park, right? You should walk to the park. You should travel there on foot, not by bike, not by car, okay? If I want to give someone negative advice, so I'm telling them not to do a particular action, I want to follow should with not and then the base verb. You can see that in the example. The children shouldn't leg it to school in this lightning storm, right? We don't want kids out walking around when there's lightning. We don't want them to be injured. So that's the advice here. Don't walk to school right now during the lightning storm. You can also ask others for advice using yes or no questions. To do that, start with the modal should, then use your subject, right? And then the base verb. So, an example of this, should we leg it to the grocery store? Well, I'm asking, should we walk to the grocery store? Again, versus driving or biking or using some other form of transportation. Okay, so should is really common when we're giving advice, but we can sort of strengthen that advice, uh, really stress maybe the importance of it by using the phrase ought to and then our base verb. But what you're going to notice in the affirmative example I have here, we ought to leg it around the forest this weekend. The fall colors are beautiful, right? So the leaves are changing. In North America, in the Midwest where I live, it is a gorgeous time to take in fall colors. So again, someone is saying as a group it would be a good idea, and maybe we really should do this because these beautiful fall colors, they don't last for many weeks, so we've got to take advantage of it. The other thing I like to point out with this ought to, when you listen to many people say this, it really comes out many times as one word, oughta. So we'd still spell it if we're writing ought to and then our base verb. But again, I want you to be prepared in case you hear someone say, we ought to leg it to the forest or leg it around the forest, right? You know what's meant by that. The third way we can give advice is through using had, better, and then the base verb. And this is considered to be sort of the strongest way to give advice. And many times, what we might be saying or implying, if we don't use the actual words, is that there are consequences if we don't follow this particular piece of advice. So let's take a look at another example here. We'd better leg it more frequently. It's good for our health, right? So here the idea is it's going to be better for our health and our well-being if we walk places versus driving. Okay. We can also make negative advice with had better. For this, we're going to do had better not and then the base verb. You can see that in the example, he had better not leg it home at 2 a.m., right? So I don't want him to travel by foot in the middle of the night. That's maybe not safe, or perhaps it's dangerous. Okay, so now let's spend just a little time looking at some related words and phrases with leg. And the first word we're going to start with is just the noun form. So same spelling, same pronunciation. And this is generally what people think of when they hear the word leg. They think of different nouns or different meanings where this word is used as a noun. So one way to use the noun leg is to refer to the limbs on which a person or an animal walks and stands. So an example of this might be he broke his left leg last week. Okay, so we're talking about the limbs or the part of the body on which someone is able to stand and or walk. A second way we might use the noun leg is to refer to um, a piece of clothing, a garment that covers either the whole leg or a part of a leg. So an example of that might be, there's a stain on the leg of your pants, right? So we're telling the person where where that might be. A third way to use the noun leg is to refer to the supporting pieces or portions of chairs, tables, or other furniture. Desks, for example, would be another example of something that can have legs. So, an example of that noun in a sentence could be, that leg of the table seems loose, right? We're worried that the table might fall down because that support is going to be gone. A fourth way you might hear leg used is to refer to a section, stage, or part of some journey, process, or even a race. An example of this might be, she's running the third leg of the race. Really common in a number of different sports that there are relays. And so there might be 4 athletes competing. In my example sentence here, I'm referring to the third runner, the third section of that particular race. The next word we're going to look at is an adjective, and it to you might look like the past tense form of the verb, and you're right, exact same spelling, but our pronunciation is going to be a little different here. When I use this word as an adjective, I'm going to pronounce it legged, legged. So I'm adding an extra syllable as I say that. So when legged is used as an adjective, not as the past tense form of our verb, we are referring to someone or something that has certain legs of a particular kind or type, or maybe a certain number of legs. So let me give you an example, something I hear in a number of different ways as I read and talk to people. So, an example, she has a passion for her four legged friends. So, this phrase, four legged friends, is a really common way to talk about pets and animals. So, here we might be referring to cats and dogs, all of which who typically have four legs. I'm going to leave you with one more phrase that maybe you've heard. You might have heard someone or something as being described as being on its last legs. And so this phrase means that, again, something is nearing the end of its life or ending its usefulness in existence. An example of that, I've heard many people say over the years, my car is on its last legs. I don't think this car is going to run or be useful for that much longer. And many times, what they're implying is they're looking for a new one. They're going to need to buy a new car in the near future. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.